Yo, we back. It's FCNS Forever Shot Never Shot podcast, and I have Brittany with me, aka your name, your Facebook name, your Instagram
Brittany
name.
Marie.
Yeah.
Bring
Bring
it
it,
my
Brit.
Instagram,
Yeah.
Bring it Brad, at Bring it BRIT.
Black Girl Magic Therapy. Black Girl Magic, your therapist, telling these people what's wrong with them.
I try
Telling
to
them
tell
what
you.
they need
I
to
try
do.
to tell you what's right with you too.
I like that though.
Yeah.
So what's right with you, which will lead to better things. Not necessarily say what's wrong with it, but what's right.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a lot of things that's wrong with a lot of people's childhood. So this episode was gonna be like week 7, but due to a lot of posts, shout out to Terry, shout out to Kia Smith, aka Kia Rice. She made a post dealing with childhood therapy. I thought it would be best if I push this up, and the fact that those posts did very well. A lot of people commented, a lot of people participated on them. So just to bring it to the forefront and just talk about it. I don't think we talked about it in depth a couple of times, especially with the different topics that I want to get into today. And with you being the therapist, we kind of connect the dots and help people understand, like, some things that they probably need to work on and just, be able to face those things. So let me go ahead and share the live, everybody. Please share the live. We started. Let me go to the video. So I can see what my first time. So a lot of people can't admit that
What I think I found the most interesting about Terry's post is there were so many people who have kind of learned to like black as they came, and they had like normalized what they went through, like to the point where whenever we talk about the fact that like, maybe we should stop whipping kids. There's always somebody that's like, well, I got my ass beaten, I'm just fine. But it's like, are you really?
Exactly. Like, well, shit. I think one of the biggest things is today's generation. Like a lot of people kind of throw shame on today's generation because the kids do seem a lot more sensitive, and social media does affect them to a level where, and rightfully so, social media affects them to a level where kids are a lot more depressed nowadays.
Right.
Not getting enough likes, not having enough friends on social media. And so I think nowadays kids they see up front more. We can't necessarily say we was tougher. We just didn't have to face a lot of this shit.
Exactly, and we were able to build like such. We went home, like your bullies didn't follow you home. Now these kids who grown up, like we grew social media and technology really coming into its form, but they grew up in the era of social media where like
Exactly.
you was like 10 asking, could you get a Facebook? So like their experience and what they value is a lot different than what we kind of grew up valuing. And we can't necessarily blame them for that because a lot of it is wanting to relate to their peers, wanting to connect, wanting to be liked.
Yeah, like, so the bullying follows them. It follows them home. Whereas, when we was younger, you probably had somebody who picked on you at school, but
Right.
when you went home,
you
you
was
ain't have to deal with
safe.
that shit.
Right, exactly. You didn't have to worry about it. And now it's like I said, as much slack as they get, they definitely have their own set of battles that we need to address. And I think we need to start by taking the negative connotation around like being sensitive as something negative. Um, we all have different parts of ourselves, so why not be sensitive? That's also why the generation coming up beneath us seems to be a lot more socially intelligent, more emotionally intelligent. Like they are a lot of them are well beyond their years when it comes to certain concepts.
Exactly. No, I definitely agree that they are more aware. They are more socially aware. They are more upfront. When we were younger, we kind of had like we kind of grew up with understandings and words such as disrespecting homosexuals, saying faggot and things like that. It wasn't a it was a worldwide issue, but we didn't know the severity of it.
Right.
We wasn't educated on the severity of it. Whereas kids nowadays, you know, I got nieces that are 10, 11 years old. They wouldn't dare say that word.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So they are definitely more aware, but I do think they also deal with a lot more pressure than we do. So when it comes to that childhood trauma, I named today's episode "Being a Product of Your Environment." A lot of times, usually, people usually take that as like, oh, you know, you're bad, or you know, you lived a rough neighborhood, so you turned out to be bad, or you know, you lived in a great neighborhood, so you turned out to be good, or
Right.
you know, privileged or things like that. But I more so say a product of your environment as far as the things that you personally seen or dealt with, or the things that were specific to you
Mhm.
growing up. So there are a few things to hit on as far as like childhood trauma. So if anybody don't know, first of all, shed a laugh. But if anybody don't know, this episode will be about childhood trauma. It's us as adults, you know, and moving forward, how it affects us as adults. So one of the one things I want to touch on is I know you're a therapist, so what do you usually see? Like what are some of the most common things you usually see from childhood trauma that also carries on into adulthood?
Yeah. So right now, a good chunk of my clients are dealing with parental issues. Like they're adults, grown ass people,
Mm-hmm.
and um, they come to talk to me about the dysfunction that they have in their relationship with their parents. And a lot of us,
Still to this day.
yes, to this
Mm-hmm.
day, like where it's still very prevalent, where they're like, I need to figure out how to deal with them
Mm-hmm.
because they do X, Y, Z, and it stresses me out. And then we talk about like, well, how long have they been this way? You know, so we can start with the fact that a lot of people have um, attachment issues. A lot of what we refer to as like mommy and daddy issues, your
Mm-hmm.
parents could have been present in your life and you can still have mommy and daddy issues because maybe they were physically present, but they weren't emotionally present. There are so many people who have who've had emotionally unavailable parents,
Mm-hmm.
so they seek that out in their partners. And they don't even understand like why do I love people who like treat me like shit, or why do I love people um who don't reciprocate the same energy that I'm trying to give to them. And it's because your attachment as a child taught you that love looks like
This what love is.
unrequited, right? It's not reciprocated. It's you doing the work or you seeking, so a lot of times if we didn't get validated or enough attention
Mm-hmm.
in our childhood, in our adolescence, we just grow up seeking that in other people.
And like you said, it has nothing to do with like a popular phrase is daddy issues, like a girl with daddy issues. And the average person, including myself, will automatically assume is that's like, oh, her daddy won in her life. Or her
Right.
daddy didn't
That's
show her,
right. That's the
her daddy didn't
connotation.
live under her household. You
Right.
know, her daddy didn't live under her roof.
Right.
But you're basically saying like, no, like having those two parents there, that doesn't necessarily mean that there was love shown in the house. That doesn't necessarily mean that there was and of course, like I'm pretty sure people would look at it, well, if you didn't get hit or if they weren't calling you out your name or treating you
Then it
wrong,
wasn't that
then
bad.
it wasn't that bad. You
And
was
we say the
good.
same stuff about uh partner violence though. Like women will excuse a man's behavior
Hmm.
or vice versa because you're not being hit.
You're not
But
being hit or you're not being cheated on. Like,
right,
oh,
but
he a
I'm
good
saying
man because he don't cheat on me.
right, but there are still so many other components that are necessary in order for any type of relationship to
No,
work, a
agreed.
parental one or a romantic one. So when it comes down to it, it's like we joke about mommy and daddy issues, but like you can have them and still have a parent. And I think a lot of us, especially millennials, the age bracket that we're in, and because we are caught in the middle of some of those old generational patterns that
Hmm.
we were taught, but then still like learning to be progressive and like incorporate what today's climate needs.
Hmm.
I notice a lot of people seem to neglect the fact that uh we have to repair these parts of ourselves. We can't
She know what she talking about.
a
Yeah.
little bit like
She know what she talking about.
like we're the generation that's like relearning and realizing like what our parents really did
I like that
wrong.
relearning.
I'm
I like
I'm
that.
I know for myself, I've come to a place in my relationship with my father. Was they always there, supportive. He's not the most emotional man, but he I can tell he tries. Sometimes he
Hmm.
tries to connect with me in that way. But there are things that I'm being able to look at when it comes to who he is as a man and how I feel about, like, do I know him the same way I know my mother? I
Mhm.
know parts of my mom's history. Like, she's talked to me about that. We've had those conversations. He doesn't, I don't know much about what made my dad to be the man that he is. And that's something I'm 28 years old and I'm just coming to understand that, like, damn, it's parts about him that I don't fully know. I don't grasp, or I don't really understand why he is the way that he is.
That's actually I like that you mentioned it. And I'm gonna touch up on it a little bit, but I think it shouldn't happen too early, but it also shouldn't happen too late. I think the issue is that a lot of people look at their parents as literally just parents for a long
time, and not as real people,
and not as individuals.
Yes.
You don't realize who your mother is and who your father is as a person.
Yes.
As an individual. Unfortunately, I had an epiphany at like 10 years old. I think that was way too fucking young to be like, that's who the fuck my mama gonna be. That's who my daddy gonna be.
Yeah.
And I never looked back. So I think that's too young.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's important at some point to realize that, because your parents are your heroes and things like that.
You put them on a pedestal.
You put them on a pedestal, but you don't understand the trauma that they may have went through.
Exactly.
Maybe your mother she's the type that just doesn't show her emotions in that type of way. Maybe your father isn't a very vocal person.
And the thing is, they all became that way because of how they were raised. So what I tell my clients a lot of the time is like, yes, you have the right to be upset at them, to be frustrated at how you were raised, but you also have to remember that they are only a product of the generation before them. So you kind of got to walk through certain situations with a little bit of grace, and that allows you to relinquish some of that resentment or some of that anger that you have towards them, because it's like now you're looking at them as a person who is a product of their parents or their family or their experiences or their circumstances.
Exactly, as an individual.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely seeing your parents as individuals, as a man and as a woman, and their personalities. Right. Just looking at them as their personalities. It's not a reflection of them acting that way towards you. That's just their personality. Yeah. That's who they are as a person. So I came to that conclusion of who my mom was and who my dad was at a very young age. But I would recommend that at some point it does need to happen. Maybe not too soon, and also maybe not too late. But at some point, I definitely feel like it needs to happen. With parents, I feel like that is, like you say, that's the most common, right? That's the most common. Just how your parents love you and your interaction with your parents. Yeah. Or lack thereof. What about shout out to again Kia Smith. Shut alive, everybody who's viewing right now. We got 16 viewers. Shut alive. Tell your friends to shut alive. Comment. Kia Smith, aka Kia Wright, she had a post where she basically, in so many words, she said, hey, when I was young, when I was 13 years old, I dealt with a very traumatic relationship. Right. Like real full-blown relationship. Mm-hmm. And she said, moving forward, the guy, he's married and he has his things going on, and she's, learned from when she was that young and the issues that she dealt with. How, when people go through something so real, so adult at such a young age, shouldn't no fucking 13-year-old shouldn't no 13-year-old be able to say, I was in a problematic relationship. Right. You could probably think you got a boyfriend or whatever the case may be, or have somebody that you like, but to be in a full-blown serious relationship, how do you think that would affect one's mentality, just like moving forward, man and woman?
I think sometimes as we start to get older, we don't walk in our relationships with our adult mind. We're walking in it with our trauma mind. So usually whenever somebody goes through something traumatic, that sector or that part of like their understanding can get stagnant at that age. So there are a lot of people who are walking around like with their 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old selves coming out in certain parts of their lives because they went through something that they haven't fully healed from.
Damn. So to go through something at such a young age, you're saying it kind of like programs a mentality, almost
In
like
a way,
program to
like
deal
sometimes
with.
your growth gets stunted in that area. So it's not to say that you don't grow out of it. You have to, there's a lot of self-work that has to be done, and like a person like Kia who's dedicated a huge chunk of her life to
Exactly.
to self-work, I can see how she's grown to be the woman that she is despite that experience. But so many times, like when we are young, and especially when you are that young, you're still so impressionable and your partner is older than you.
Mhm.
There are things that you take from that experience, but then there are things that like you won't understand until you start to get older, until you have more experiences where you realize like, yeah, that's not it. That's not what I'm
Exactly.
supposed
Like,
to be doing. Like
exactly.
you don't know that until it's like kids who get abused at home. A lot of times they grow up not knowing that what they went through was traumatic and abusive until they start hanging around their friends and their
And
families.
realizing that shit
And they
ain't
like,
normal.
oh, they don't do that in their house.
Exactly.
So then that starts to click for them, but you don't know what you never had. So it takes a while for people to realize, like, that's why I tell people, like, don't always judge people for what you see them going through, because you don't know why they accept that.
Very true. Very true. I was what do you think about, like, so sex is everywhere now.
Right.
Sex is literally every fucking well. It's impossible to keep it away from your kids. I'm an advocate of letting your kids understand what sex is and what it leads to, and the details around it, not at a young age, but at an early enough age. What do you think about sex at a preteen age, or like, how you like? I'm the type that, like, so I have 5 nieces, 6. I got 6 nieces, right? And they are very aware of when it comes to boys, right? I go on drives with them, so I call them my drives. So I get my nieces, at least the ones that's old enough, the ones that's from like 12 and up. I get them. We all get in the car and we'll just drive around, and I tell them talk.
That's cute.
Talk to me. But and they'll reach out and be like, "Uncle, it's time for a drive." Like they'll reach out to me and be like, "Uncle, like we need a ride." And I'd be scared at first, like shit, like, you know what I'm saying? But we just ain't talk. We need a ride. So we'll go for a ride, and I just ask them, I'm like, who got a boyfriend? Like, who talking? Like, who, what's going on? And I think that helps because at a young age, I tell them that, like, when you get older, people have sex. Hell, not even much older.
Right.
Exactly. I ain't saying when you my age, when you 30. I ain't saying at that age. Shit, y'all mama said y'all when she was a teenager. So I'm like, sex isn't a bad thing. Just be fucking responsible.
Right.
Don't be scared to come to us. Don't be scared to let us know that, oh, I like this little boy. Like my niece, she just went through her first breakup. She'll be all right.
It's valid. That's her first breakup. Whatever she feeling is valid.
But like I told her, she kept it real with me. She was like, I think he broke up with me because I wasn't giving him none. Like, she was like, I wasn't ready, and I think that's why he broke up with me, and he's sexually active. So I'm proud of her because of the simple fact, not even just because of the fact that she didn't have sex. If she would have had sex, I'm just happy that she ain't do it because his ass wanted her to have sex.
Right.
So when it comes to sex and at such a young age, like, what do you think is, like, how's the right way to go about it? Like,
I think it starts with just instilling young girls with what their worth is and making sure that they realize that their virginity is valuable. I know that that's what worked for me. Like, my parents didn't talk to me about sex much, but I grew up feeling like my V card needed to be earned. Like that it wasn't something that I was just gonna.
Ain't no fresh ass nigga.
Right. I was gonna throw to whoever. Like, I wanted that to be special, and I wanted it to be somewhat significant with somebody I knew cared about me.
Facts.
So I definitely had like my own little rules, like, and people gave me shit about it, like, oh, well, you think he not doing it or whatever, and it's like, well, I can't worry about that. But I was definitely the teenager that was like, I need to be with somebody for at least a year before I think about giving them my virginity. But again, I think that, like,
you have the checklist and the rules and
right,
shit.
because again, like, that was valuable.
I love you, but it's only month 9.
Exactly.
You got
Because I felt
you got
like
3 more months to
wouldn't
go.
no little boy stay with me that long if all he wanted was sex. You get what I'm saying? So I think like a part of it starts with the self-esteem, the self-worth that we're instilling in these young women. You laughing? Somebody must be saying something
So
loud.
my niece, shout out to Mimi, man. My niece, so I used to tell my nieces, they used to be like, not my niece, this is my little cousin, but they
Mhm.
were so much younger, they was like nieces. So we all used to live together in the same household. And I remember she said, y'all, TJ told me to tell boys my name was Science when I was young. So be like, oh yeah, can you have a boyfriend? And I used to be like, yeah, you got 5 boyfriends. Science,
Man.
math, social studies, gym, whatever fucking other subject you was taking. So that was funny. I do remember that.
Yeah, but no, I think it starts with like just them knowing their worth and what that means to them, and also understanding that like withholding shows people's true colors. So I got grown women who are like,
Facts.
I can't. I'm trying to have like more successful dating situations, and that's not to say that like you can't have sex, but like when you start letting people know what your expectations are for certain things, then they go ghost, and then you really get to
Facts.
see like what their real motivations are. So I think we have it's what you're doing as far as opening. Because the thing, a kid's not going to talk to you about sex if they feel like they can't talk to you about nothing else. So you want to start making sure you have rapport built with them prior, because sex is the big stuff.
That's the big
I need
one.
to know
Exactly.
that I can trust you and I can, and it's
That's the big one, man.
yeah,
That's
and
the
that
one
it's a safe
everybody's scared
space.
of.
Yeah, I need to know that there's a safe space for me to talk about the little boy that I'm crushing on, or to at least tell you I'm thinking about having sex, or I might want to get on birth control. Like I need to be able to have these conversations before I can just like drop that on you. So for the teens in your life, or the kids in your life, you want to start providing a safe space for them to talk to you about whatever it is. So that way they trust to come to you and receive your guidance and know that like it's just not going to be a huge lecture.
Yeah, I think it's important not to chastise them every time you talk to them.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do the Boys in the Hood air swing when they tell me certain shit like, "Oh, I like a little boy." I'll be really, cool. But I definitely do think that it's important. But so with girls, that's one thing. What about with little boys? Like, cause I'm guilty of raising my nephews different than my nieces.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of, and not in the sense that I give my nephew that I'm more like free with my nephew, or I tell them the wrong shit. I just don't talk to them as much because I feel like you a boy, so you gonna like girls. I don't really know. I don't know. It's hard.
You
Like as
need
it
to
like
talk to them too.
I talk to them, but
you need to
not
talk to
with the
them
same
as
time. I'm just more scared for my nieces.
I understand that, but again, you want these young men to start growing up understanding that there is value in them too, and to understand the importance of like building social interactions with women that like of a certain caliber. You know what I mean? Like those are things that you want to teach them, because there is no reason why so many of y'all men have baby mamas that y'all hate, and it's because y'all laying down with women who y'all don't know, who you're not compatible with. Like you're laying down with women and you don't know them, but then you're not thinking about the consequences or the repercussions of those actions. Like,
very true.
and y'all are living that. So that's my thing. Like these boys need to understand that everybody don't deserve your package. You know what I mean? Like you need to teaching them how to be selective, teaching them how to be safe, and also just reinforcing certain things around sex, as far as like women are an equal participant. Enough men haven't been brought up to understand that.
I like that.
You need to go into this understanding, if you do go there, like this is also about her. How are you going to make her happy? Like if y'all gonna have those conversations, these are the things we need to be teaching these young men, like how to making sure that they are being respectful to her body, to her consent. This is what we need to be talking to these young boys about. I done said all of this, and I'm realizing consent is the number one thing on the table. That's the first conversation, the very first, and understanding how to process peer pressure from their guys. You know what I mean? They may feel like they not ready to have sex, but all they homeboys in their ear talking about, yeah, you this and you that. How do we teach them to be confident and strong enough to do things on their own time and not feel so influenced by their friends?
Facts. And it was just kind of just, I feel like that was a shot at me. But Yana just said, and other men are scared for their nieces because you're not talking to your nephews.
Thank you. Yes, that's right on the money.
Shout out to Yana. She just definitely made a amazing point. Yeah, and I know I need to now. I have a nephew that I do talk to more, but he's older. You know, he's older, so my younger nephews, I definitely probably could reach out more and it just at least talk to him about. I usually just take his ass to paintball and leave it at that. But definitely having those different conversations.
Certain conversations are so necessary. Like, what do you do if a girl changes her mind? Because that happens. How do we teach them to emotionally regulate and pull themselves together when they think they about to get some and they don't?
And be like,
they need to learn how to navigate those situations respectfully. You know what I mean? Learning how to take rejection.
How many niggas in the that's watching the live? Shut a live, everybody. Shut a live. How many niggas is watching the live that been in that situation where they was that close?
Yeah.
She got that. No, you like.
And there are some men who were never taught how to navigate that,
how to understand that it's not she not on that time,
or taking it personally, or again like that situation goes wrong for so many women where they end up getting raped or taken advantage of or assaulted.
I understood for sure. I think you hit it on the head where you said just understanding that in that moment it's about consent and not taking it personal and just understanding that it's not time for that. Yeah, it happens.
You'll get some from somebody else.
It's not time for that, and that it definitely happens. So behind the mic, well, behind the camera, we got brother Roseland. You had a birds and the bees talk? Did you have that talk, or how did you learn about sex when you was younger?
Is my mic on?
Yeah, your mic on. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. I learned about sex through porn. That's what I learned about sex from.
Same.
Yeah, I didn't have a talk.
In porn, it teaches you mechanics. It doesn't teach you emotional
mentality.
Mechanics. It doesn't. It teaches you what to put where to lick, where to position, but it doesn't teach you about the emotional and mental components of sex.
Yeah, I thought I was supposed to get some head, get her out, hit her from the back, bust on her face. Like, that's how
I tried everything on my first
porn
time.
Scenes go.
I was kind of treated.
No hair.
And then I feel like y'all end up being disappointed because y'all not telling these young men how they living off porn and not having realistic expectations for what real sex looks like.
Yeah, I tweaked. First time I had sex, I ate coochie. I did everything. I tried anal. Like I was just literally going off of what I saw. I used to sneak into my pop's room when he was at work, and I'll watch like his flicks. And I'd be like, damn this. And then it was fucked up because it'd be all type of wild shit. Shout out to black cheerleaders.
I love how sex seems to just come up all the time.
I'm just saying, but it was bad though. I didn't understand it's a whole
somebody should have taught
the intimacy. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand the intimacy part of it, and so I was disappointed when I was younger because for finding out that this is really not how it goes.
And some men never learn that's not how it goes. You have men in their 30s who been doing the same moves their whole life because ain't nobody ever
fix it. No, I think that kind of like to tie what you said, like with childhood shit to your present day. Like I just talked to my therapist about sex addiction, and we identified that she put me on a sex fast because
shout out to a young black man going to therapy.
Yes. Shout out to her for the sex fast.
He's very proud of his therapist.
I love my therapist. I can't believe I paid to talk to her. But so basically she put me on a sex fast because she felt like I was addicted to sex. And we identified that the addiction came from me being the only child in the house by myself at like 11 years old, my parents not being around, and me going and finding porn in my dad's room and watching the porn. But the porn wasn't about sex. It was about me being lonely. So the porn was my companion. And then as I grew up and I went through experiences that I didn't want to deal with, like breakups, shit like that, I would go, now I don't need porn because I can get a real girl. Mm-hmm. So I would just sleep with different people like back to back to back to distract myself.
When bored, so to speak?
Not even when bored. Nah, when dealing with like, I go through a breakup with a chick.
Overwhelming
and I don't have to
emotions.
sit
Right.
and
People
deal
do
with
that
my
to
emotions. So
people
I just,
use
like,
sex the same
fuck
way
like
that
crazy.
they use alcohol, weed
Yeah,
to fill
I would
voids,
abuse
to
sex.
numb,
Yeah.
like, and usually that anybody will tell you who uses sex like that, like most of the time they don't feel nothing after it. Like they don't
Yeah.
have no real connection to the sex. Like they just think that it's going to fulfill them for the present moment. It's like a Band-Aid.
And, you know, I've never been a heavy drinker or smoker. That kind of always has been my thing.
Right.
Exactly.
Shout out to that
Fuck.
black woman for making that connection with you.
Oh yeah, she snapped. Shout out to her. No, so like he said, that started early. That started at 11, being in the house by itself. Mine started early. Age of my nieces, you know, latch on to them early, or at least when they're in their preteens, when they 12, 13 years old. Just I went the first time they tell me, oh, you know, I got a crush. One of my nieces said crush on fucking NBA YoungBoy. I was heartbroken. I immediately beat bitches. No, just like,
but I'm saying even in conversations like that, you can ask like, what do you find appealing about this person? What do you like about them?
That's what our drives be about. That's what our drives be about, and so they opened up. Now, what about the abuse part? Because sexual abuse has been in my family. It's been in a lot of families. It's common, more common than people think.
Yeah.
A lot of women who it's more common for women to get sexually abused. It goes unspoken.
Right.
You know, they bottle it up at a young age, and then later on down the line. So I was watching another podcast, and this podcast was like, it was big on sexual freedom, right? And but something stuck with me because the male on there, he made a comment saying, if a girl is like just into all these like very freaky and rough and things like that, he was like, I think that's a girl that has had something traumatic happen to her sexually in the past. Now, I don't agree with him. However, his argument at the moment was valid because the two girls who has the podcast, something happened to them. The young ladies previously on the podcast all admitted to something happening to them. So when it comes to like sexual abuse, like what have you seen where it's like, how does it affect women, more so women? It happens to men, but as we all know, it's more so common with young women. How does it affect them just growing up and at least being able to even open up to male partners?
Yeah, so there are a few different effects of childhood sexual abuse. Now, the example that you gave as far as like kind of what being into like BDSM and like rough play and things of that nature, I've never actually heard of that being a correlation to sexual abuse. I think the issue was the fact that like, I don't know the numbers, but probably 3 in 5 women probably been sexually abused. And if one of them
3 in 5?
Don't quote me on that. I feel like the numbers are around there. Somebody can Google it, but I don't quote me on that. I just feel like if I'm in a room with 10 of my friends, there's probably at least 5 of us who've had some form of sexual assault or abuse. Shit. And that's not something else I want to point out before I go to what you asked is like, that's not to say that that's all like a violent rape, because I think sometimes we hear I talk about that a lot. We hear assault or sexual abuse and we immediately think like the worst, more severe. But like there are situations where a fine line was crossed where now this man has stepped into sexually assaulting or abusing me. But back to your question, I think what you typically see, a lot of women become hypersexual. So once they feel like you've taken that power from them, now this is their way of going and having sex to have some type of regain of that power. So a lot of people a lot of women who've been sexually abused will tell you that they went through a period of time where they were probably hypersexual, or they're still exploring this in adulthood. Because again, it's a way for you to have control, or that was how, especially if it happened within the family, like sometimes that's how your abuser gets you to translate love. So you go around feeling like looking for love and attention to validate you being a good person, to validate you being good enough by people having sex with you.
Shit. Okay, so and we've mentioned this before, but me and Terry have come across women who that was like they thing, kind of like rough, almost rapey type of sex.
Mm.
And we never, I mean, looking back on it, now it's like, damn, it's like, what was the connection there?
Yeah.
But it could very well just be something traumatic and them just reaching out, or not even reaching out, but them just acting on it, like you said, taking the power back, taking the control
Yeah, that's
back
just
for it.
their way of kind of
So as a
expressing.
man, right? As a
Mhm.
man, one, if you come across a woman that has said, like, how do you, how would you deal with that if you come across one? Because, you know, let's just say you have a partner, right?
Mhm.
And you want to be spontaneous and you want to be, you want to be rough or whatever the case may be. But then you find out that this young lady has had, this traumatic past or that
Mhm.
she's went through something. As a man, like, how can we know better, like, what to do or how to, how to react to that? Like,
Right. So I think making sure women know that they can talk to you about what they do and don't like about sex is important. And
Mhm.
even if they don't initiate that conversation, having that conversation with them,
initiating it yourself.
because some women are naturally like reserved when it comes to talking about sex.
Mhm.
But I think that number one, she has to feel safe with you in some form, or else you'll
Facts.
never know. You'll never know what she's been through. There are a lot of women who purposely withhold their past traumatic sexual abuse experiences because it's been used against them, or the man has expressed it like he don't now want to
It
touch
wasn't
you,
believed or
or
something.
not necessarily not believe, but kind of like a sense of like disgust. Like I've had clients who've been gang raped and said that like when they told their partner or a partner that they've had, like the partner didn't want to have nothing to do with them. So they learn
Damn.
to keep that stuff to themselves because they're worried about being judged. They're worried about what you're going to think of them after the fact. So number one is providing the safe space for them to feel comfortable sharing any of that type of information with you.
Mhm.
Number two is being very conscious of what they indicate as their triggers. So like I said, like I've a similar client, she says like she doesn't like it when men like caress her arm slowly because whatever that
It's triggering.
is
It's
triggering and it's reminiscent of her abuser.
Mhm.
So that's something she's had to learn to communicate. Like, you can squeeze my butt, you can like squeeze on me, but don't sit and caress me. And just kind of being mindful and respecting those things that they are sharing. But that's the biggest piece is
Mhm.
just them feeling comfortable enough to tell you like I like this, I don't like this, even if they don't tell you why, even if
Mhm.
they don't go into the details of their abuse. You as a man, as any man wants to be proactive about, if you know that you and a woman are probably about to be sexually active, you want to be proactive about finding out what she enjoys and what she doesn't.
Understood.
Because when you don't
I
have those conversations, even when there is no trauma, like you kind of go into the sex blinded. Whereas, like if y'all have a little sex talk before then, you kind of feel a little bit more prepared to go in there to please the person versus like
you might, yeah. So
just trying
so
shit.
so are we guilty of, like, not saying are we, because I mean, the facts speak for themselves. People just don't talk, like, have actual talks, like actual conversations before they get, before they sexually active and they spending time together. You don't even really know that person. Like, you're
Oh,
like you like
think about how fast people have sex nowadays. Think about how fast in the past you or Terry had probably had sex with
whoa
somebody
whoa
and
whoa
didn't
whoa
even know
what?
the girl middle name. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, yes, there are conversations that people don't have and that's why
Well, not even just sex, just in general.
well, that's
Like,
what I'm saying. There are a lot of necessary conversations
yeah,
that don't have, and this is a whole like we could go on forever about the fact that like we end up
that's why I brought you.
sexually attached to people who we don't even know. And I'm not
Educators.
excluded. I've definitely had strong sexual chemistry with a man, had sex with him. Sex was bomb, but then there are things about this person as I'm spending more time with them that I don't like.
Yeah, very true.
So now I'm
Very true.
conflicted. You
And
know,
so, and you already went that far, and so
now I'm
now,
sexually attached to you. You get what I'm saying?
exactly,
So
exactly. And it kind of plays into Brother Roseland's topic that he'll have on Thursday. Just having that attachment already, but now y'all not there physically. Y'all don't have that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
y'all don't
physically,
have
y'all.
that mental or emotional connection yet.
Yeah.
So again, like there are conversations that people aren't having
Hmm.
prior to having sex. And again, if you're not even talking about the real stuff, then why on earth would I feel comfortable about my sexual trauma.
Very true. So I want to take a quick moment, man. I want to tell everybody to shut a laugh. I want everybody to forever.us. We got the merch. These are coming in soon. Shout out to the 5 or so individuals who pre-ordered them. They're gonna sell out real fast, so y'all need to hurry up and go ahead and get
Chicago Heroes.
Yeah. You see it?
Yeah, that's forever FAEVA.us.
Can I ask
FAEVA.us.
who is that on the left? At the bottom.
Left bottom. That's Luke.
No, not Louis. I'm sorry, my left.
Bump J.
Bump? You don't know Bump?
J? Oh,
How old is she?
Wait a minute.
talking about
Wait
childhood.
Let's wait
Whoa,
again.
whoa. Whoa.
I wasn't a big rap listener. Like I know who he is, but I clearly couldn't recognize him.
Clearly.
Hey,
Probably
what was
she
it?
her daddy or something.
What was it? Live 2006. Man, he was on Live soundtrack. Man,
That
moving
was
around.
like pots and pans.
And I don't think I
Exactly
knew
that.
he was from Chicago.
Whoa. I think that's worse than not knowing him.
Sorry.
You knew him and didn't even know that he was first. Okay, all right. That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another day. Follow FC Network business page. That's FC Network. Sunday we had All the Brother Knows. They went crazy. Yesterday we had Bad Podcast, Beautiful, Ambitious, and Dope. Shout out to Jarrell. I said Jarrell. Shout out to Darrell and Angelica, the 2 hosts on that show. I'm FCNS, Forever Shy, Never Shy. Tomorrow we're gonna have a man's perspective, Reggie Jones, and then Thursday story time with Brother Roseland, aka Terry Roseland. But when it
Look, let me plug myself.
Oh,
quick.
go ahead. Yeah,
Crazy.
you know we yeah. Hold on, let me turn your mic up. Go ahead.
Make sure y'all subscribe to me on YouTube. Keeping it a buck with B. Okay.
She be going crazy in that Jeep.
I don't even really talk in the Jeep like that no more, but I do go crazy in the Jeep.
Why you ain't in it? The Jeep was authentic.
It
The
was.
Jeep
I try to get back to my roots with the Jeep every so now.
The Jeep was as if like you just woke up and wanted to rant and just went crazy.
Yeah,
The
and
Jeep was
anybody
authentic.
interested in therapeutic services, whether they be therapy, life coaching, couples mediation, having me facilitate a group workshop, please follow my business Instagram at Be The Change TS, and you can also find me on Facebook at Be The Change Therapeutic Services.
I like what you did to be the change.
Keeping it a buck with B, it's all about the brand.
I like what she did though.
That's right.
All right, so it is about like traumatic childhood. Name some of the abuse, because I think a lot of people, surprisingly, a lot of people think there's only like what 3 real levels of abuse. You got physical, you got sexual, and then verbal, right? Like those are the main things that people know of.
Mm-hmm. Just
being a therapist, like what's some wild shit that you've come across, experienced as a child, and be like, damn, like that's new.
I think at this point, there isn't much that I'm surprised by when it comes to people talking about their childhood abuse. I think that people just don't really understand how severe it gets and like what type of conditions some of these kids are in. That's one of the things I'm appreciating about e-learning. Like we heard about that young girl who was caught giving fellatio to somebody visibly older than her on e-learning. So like e-learning is really exposing a lot of like what these children are unfortunately dealing with in their homes that we have no clue about. And so I think it's instances like that where like you wouldn't purposely think that, somebody could be that cruel. But there are people with very very sad stories. Like I remember a specific story a while ago at a treatment center that I was working at with a lady who she was older, but this was her history. Like she grew, I think she got pregnant by a black man. Her dad trapped her in a basement for the duration of the pregnancy and took her baby, and she never knew what happened to that baby.
Wait, how does that happen? Like so she was white.
She was white.
She was white, got pregnant by a black man.
Right.
9 months trapped or
Her
trapped
dad
in
held her
captive,
yeah,
captive, and then took the baby, and then she never saw that baby again.
pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
And again, it's like one of the things that people have to remember is like when your abuse starts in childhood, it
Mhm.
doesn't get left in childhood most times. Like
Exactly.
most times,
Facts.
all you do is just become attracted to abuse in different forms. So again, like we see situations where I've had women who stay in emotionally abusive relationships because they're not being hit. Well, he ain't hitting me, so it's not that bad. But
And being hit is what they were used to, or that's
right, or
something.
what they've seen, like because
Yeah.
I've been physically abused, now emotional
Emotional
abuse
abuse ain't that
don't seem
bad.
that
Yeah.
bad. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
at the expense of what? Your self esteem, your self confidence, your self worth. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like it doesn't it never stops at childhood. You know, unfortunately, like there are people who will tell you that they have come to understand and heal from what happened to them just based on like them being able to kind of reframe their experience, understanding that it wasn't their fault, understanding that they were helpless in the situation,
Mhm.
understanding that like they don't want that situation to define them. Like some people come to this and realize it's on their own without ever going to talk to a professional about it. You know,
Absolutely.
it just becomes a part of like us, especially as Black people. We are very emotionally resilient, so we figure out
Especially
ways.
Black people. We need to stop that.
Yeah, but the thing is that sometimes we wear that resiliency like it's a badge of honor, not realizing that like we shouldn't have had to be that way. We have spaces where we can sit and heal from this type of stuff. We don't
Mhm.
have to just sit there and be like, "Oh, well, it happened. It is what it is." We got that bad.
Yes. Very true. So 2 more questions, and you can answer them back to back. So the first question: you've had childhood trauma, right? Whatever form of trauma it may be. Um, Now you're a parent. What's the best way to go about now, kind of changing the history
Mm-hmm.
now that you have kids? And then the second question: it's very common that black men, black men don't deal with any issues that they have going on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a stigma that a black man shouldn't go to therapy.
Right.
You know, so one, how to do better with your kids now, and then two, advice for black men who may need to reach out and get therapy and how to go about it.
So I think people who are parents who've dealt with childhood sexual abuse, they have to number one make sure that they um, address their stuff, like that they're not burying it, that they're not trying to repress
So
it,
sharing it with
or
your
act like
kids,
no, not necessarily sharing it with them. I'm saying for their own personal
address their
being,
own personal
making sure you
therapy.
check
Facts.
you've dealt with your own stuff, like, and I feel like
Facts.
that across the board with parenting in general. Like you need to make sure you dealt with all your own stuff so that you're not projecting onto your kids. Because sometimes what happens is like parents become like those mothers become very paranoid and strict and won't allow their kid to kind of go out and experience stuff because they're so worried about somebody taking advantage of them.
Yes.
So it's like understanding that yes, we have a duty to protect our kids because a lot of these people when they were kids didn't feel protected. They didn't feel like anybody cared or looked out for them or protected them the way that they should have been protected.
Mhm.
So number one, like doing understanding that some things are just out of your control. You know, like I'm sure some people have parents who wish they could have prevented what took place and they
Exactly.
couldn't, you know.
Exactly.
So not looking to place blame, but also understanding like as a parent you can't control everything, but also knowing like you're doing what you can to make sure that your child feels comfortable and they feel safe coming to you to
Mhm.
talk to you about anything that seems suspicious or not okay. You know, talking to your kids about their body and making sure they know like if someone touches you here, you come and talk to me, or you
Exactly.
don't let nobody do this, or you teaching kids how to protect their
Create
physical
space.
space.
Yep.
Because I've seen, you know, there are a lot of people who can probably relate to the idea that, you know, family Christmas time, Thanksgiving time, a family member asked for a hug and you didn't really want to hug them, but your mama or somebody was like, "Girl, go and give them a hug."
Exactly. I
And you
saw.
never know, you know,
Mhm.
why you don't like a part of that is teaching kids that they have autonomy over their own bodies and that they don't have to touch or hug or interact physically with anybody that they don't feel comfortable interacting with
That's
physically.
a great point.
That's a super great
that's
point.
really important, you know. So anytime, even toddlers, like I've worked in daycares, and I'm like, oh, can I have a hug before you leave? If they be like, no, I'll be like, okay,
Cool.
you know.
Yeah, like
That's you teach them to learn, like, this is my body. I
Personal
get to
space.
decide who has access to me and in what way and who doesn't. So that's one thing I would say about the whole parenting thing. As far as
brick code, y'all.
I do what I can. But as far as like with black men, I like, as much as black men like will joke about R. Kelly, I think we have to remember that like R. Kelly was a victim of abuse, and in no way is that a cop out for what he's done. I'm somebody that believes R. Kelly needs to be held responsible for the things that he's done. But we see how when you don't deal with your stuff,
What it could lead to.
what it looks like and what it could lead to, or what it manifests as. Like Terry mentioned, like mentioned hypersexuality for women. It can be the same thing for men, or this idea that like you have to overcompensate your masculinity because somebody took advantage of you. So to the men out there who have this type of abuse, whether it be sexual, physical, emotional, as a part of their childhood and their history, number one, like, we need to get you all to a place of recognizing that it is in fact abuse. Like, sometimes we minimize and we deny what something is because we don't want to have to confront it. We don't want to have to deal with what comes. Like, if I admit that I was sexually abused, now what? Like, what do I do with that? That's
Exactly.
that's a lot to carry. So please, that's why I want y'all to definitely subscribe to me. I just did a video that'll be coming to my channel in about 2 weeks with a black male therapist, and he hasn't had an easy life at all, but he's come to like be.
Let me turn your mic up. Go ahead.
He's
shout
come to
yourself
be.
out again.
Keeping it a buck would be on YouTube. We're definitely going to be having that's going to be a very great, interesting conversation for my black men to tune into, because I have a black man who's kind of like changed his life around and learned to be more emotionally intelligent and understand the things that he's been through, and how they've affected him, and the importance of him learning to deal with that, because all it does, it comes out as addiction. It comes out, and that's addiction in any forms, whether that be whatever your vice of choice is: alcohol, weed, pills, gambling, sex, all those type. It comes out like that. It comes out in your relationships, why you won't let nobody get close to you, how you attach yourself to people, how you let people in or you push them out of your life. Like, it shows up. So don't be so caught up in denial and believing that you are the only person that can. Well, number one, yes, you are the only person that can fix you, but there are people who are around who are trained to learn to help you navigate
along the way.
To help you navigate that stuff, so it doesn't become something that's just hanging in the back of your head. Because that's the thing, you never forget.
Never.
Yeah, you don't forget. You can repress. You could try to repress, but it comes up. So whether it be now, whether it be 10 years from now, whether it be 20 years from now, when you don't deal with stuff, it shows up in your life.
It's absolutely. So to all the black men out there, please, I hope you took that, into consideration and listen to what she was saying, as well as all the parents out there, listen to what she was saying. If y'all don't know, we are drinking FC Network wine. So we don't shout out what we drinking unless it's black owned.
Period.
So it's either FC Network wine, tequila, cognac, whatever the case may be. So I definitely have some like closing segments that I like to close with. So highlights and lowlights. What are some highlights that you see, or just in general around you going on right now? And lowlights, they don't necessarily have to be personal, but just something you see that can be improved. And I'll let you go first. So highlights and lowlights.
As far as like me, like what
I mean, highlights can be just things you see, like, hey, I like the fact that this is.
Shout out to these black men talking about going to therapy, because I just wrapped up a conversation with a black male therapist, and we talked about the fact that the only way we continue to destigmatize mental health and destigmatize therapy is by black men talking about their experience, by normalizing it, by letting y'all know, like, y'all don't come and cry on our couch. Like, You find the right therapist. Y'all sit there and talk about basketball. Y'all talk about hoes. Y'all talk about,
You
whatever.
talk about
it's
everything,
cool.
but they gonna figure out the problem. But you
Yeah,
can talk about
we
everything.
we help you figure out how to navigate that stuff. So I encourage the black men who are doing this process or thinking about going to therapy to just talk about it whenever you can. Because all it is telling your brothers that like it's okay, and the more we get y'all black men in therapy, the more we can start kind of changing the dynamic of all of these generations that are coming after us.
Get y'all ass on that couch. All right, what's some low lights? It could be anything.
I know. I'm tired of the media and getting online and seeing people dying.
Yeah, yeah.
I hear enough people.
Young man in Philly, I think was most recent.
Yes.
Apologies, I don't know his name.
It just feels like it's something all the time, and like
Mm-hmm.
I already. That's why I don't watch news a lot. Like what I get is really just from social media, and I keep it at a bare minimum. Like some like videos and things of that nature, I personally don't watch. Like I have to sit and listen to other people's stuff all the time. I don't want to have to sit and like really sit with all. Like
Absolutely.
I acknowledge what's going on in the world. I feel for it, but I also don't overindulge in it either, because what does that do for my mental health? And
Absolutely.
I encourage everybody else to think about limiting that stuff as well.
Absolutely. My highlights is I got a job.
Period.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I got a job. I don't know if I'm too happy.
I mean,
at this point,
working right now for everybody is just kind of like a blah situation.
Absolutely. So I'm
is
definitely.
Is it more money?
Oh yeah.
So that's a positive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's get this bag.
I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm making a little money, but I got a job, but the plan is for it to help me build and help me to get all the dreams and other business endeavors that I wanted to get done. And then lowlights is everybody going back and forth about the politics, right? Who we gonna vote for and the debate and all those things, and I get it. I get that Biden is not the prime candidate, for us. First of all, nobody is for us, but I get that.
The lesser of two evils.
I get why you wouldn't want to vote for Biden. I would rather you just not vote. I really do not like seeing our people advocate for Trump.
So you don't believe that not voting is voting for Trump? Because that's what people say.
That's a good point. However, I'm not going to force anybody to vote.
To do it.
I'm not going to force you to say, no, you need to vote for this person because your people voting for them. I never say that.
Mm-hmm.
However, hell no, don't vote for Trump. So, and don't advocate that.
And that's what's sad.
There's a documentary on Netflix. Shout out to Brother Rose when he put me on. It's called the Social Pandemic. Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
It's called The Social Dilemma, and it shows that how the negative influence of social media and politics can be pushed and in the wrong way, in all the negative ways. So all the people that's, whether you're on social media and you advocating for Trump, y'all crazy for voting for Biden. Trump didn't did this, Trump didn't did that. Just I would rather you just say, I wouldn't vote for Biden and leave it at that. Yeah. Do not advocate for that motherfucker Trump. And I would rather you just not vote.
I act like he don't exist.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the best
even
way. When he pop up on like Shade Room posts his tweets and stuff.
That's too much. That's too much exposure.
The 4 years he's been in office.
That's too much exposure.
I don't pay attention to nothing that man does. Like it's been like I try to act oblivious.
Yeah, that's too much exposure. And Chicago shit, we shut down again. Chief Lightfoot, I like to call her Chief Lightfoot. She just seemed like she was one of the moles.
She did that shit on purpose right before Halloween because she knew we was finna get butt.
Yeah, she knew shit was going. I like what you did there. Get butt. You
I ain't even do that on purpose.
Oh,
it's just
nice. I like it.
That's splat.
But got that splat. But no, so we shut down again, and I think we definitely need to take this one a lot more serious. The numbers didn't spike for no reason. I like Lightfoot. I don't think she got a good team behind her. And because she not crooked and because she not as gullible as other Illinois and Chicago leaders that we've had, they not fucking with her and they not giving her any support. That's my opinion. But
I also think like the whole idea of shutting down, like, what are you gonna do about the people that are out of work again? That's
Now,
why they open shit, like,
that's-
because they would have had that. Like, what do you do?
And that's something that needs to be figured out. And that's why I'm saying I wish she would have a better team behind her to help her figure that
Had
out.
we let this lasted a little longer, that lockdown, we wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, and so the first one would have
That's
lasted
what I'm
a
saying.
little
Like,
longer.
if I didn't expect for things to open back up as quickly as they did.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Chicago is shut down again. I would just say, you know, my thoughts are out there to all the people that's struggling and the individuals that
It's about to be a rough winter.
can't work from home but still have to be at home. I mean, can't work from home but yet have to be at home for the e-learning.
Please take care of yourselves.
Please take care of yourselves, and we hopefully the leaders figure it out and find a way to get those people, you know, to be able to still work and make some money during the winter as well as during this pandemic. And then lastly, hood motivation. Y'all heard it here. Therapy. Dealing with the issues that you've experienced at a young age, tackling it early on, understanding that, you know, it's not something that you should keep bottled up because there's going to be a situation where it overflows. There's going to be a situation where it's going to spill. If you keep filling up a glass of water, eventually it's going to overflow. So Black men understand that therapy is not a bad thing. Opening up and understanding that it's something that you can have to help you deal with those things. And to just Black people in general, it helps you raise your kids better. It helps you be able to control the things that they may go through and the things that they may experience. So I want to thank you for being my guest at the last minute. What I text you at like 2:00 today?
I know, I'm clutch queen. Appreciate
she
it.
legit. Shout out to Britt for being clutch. So Shed a Laugh, forever.us, FAEVA.us. You could get the merch. Y'all, hey, this shirt, nice. It's a little tight, but it's nice.
Terry, you missed my birthday, so I'm gonna need one.
Oh yeah. Terry, you missed her birthday, so she's gonna need one of these.
Yeah, luckily they're not out yet. But I got you though.
But yeah, so
those will be out by the end of the week.
These will we know some people got these on pre-order, so everybody else, you better hurry up and get it in as soon as they we're gonna update the website. This is a sample. You know, we got them coming looking a little better than this, but I liked it, so I went on ahead threw it on.
Look, real quick, since we doing Black owned, look, let me shout out my little brother real quick. This is his t-shirt. Well, he has a whole line. Like he does stitch work, but this is one of his t-shirts.
Go ahead and read it off.
By Stan R. Look him up. He that nigga.
He said, if this shit was easy, everyone would be doing it. Facts.
And that's on period.
That's on period. But again, FCNS, Forever Shy, Never Shy podcast. Don't forget, go back and listen to All the Brother Knows Sunday. Go back and listen to Bad, Beautiful, Ambitious, and Dope. I'm Tuesdays. Wednesdays is Reggie Jones with a man's perspective. Thursdays is Brother Roseland, Terry Roseland with Storytime with Terry. And thank y'all for listening.